Hey everybody, welcome to the IronTrap podcast.
What's up, guys?
Doing our weekly podcast again. If we'll get it out of the way early, if you guys are just starting to listen, you can subscribe and listen on all the normal podcast outlets, Apple, Spotify, any of those things.
Yep.
We're also, it seems to be quite popular. People are also listening/watching on our YouTube channel. So if you already follow our YouTube channel, you can actually just do podcasts and you can just put it on in the background. We also offer this a recorded version with visual. So this particular podcast may not have much, if any, visual things added, but some of our podcasts we do is very visual, and we will actually drop in shots of a trip, or we did the one with the magazines recently, so
Yep.
we dropped in a lot of reference photos, and it's kind of fun. So you can,
And last week's was with Jordan Beller from the Beller Museum, so there's a ton of
oh yeah,
B-roll from visiting his collection. So there's a lot of cool
Crazy.
shots added in.
crazy. He's who I want to be when I grow
Yes.
up. A great guy to sit down with, and that was a lot of fun. News, we have we're doing our pre-order for our calendars.
This comes out the Sunday after Thanksgiving, so Black Friday ends at 11 p.m. tonight. So if you haven't gotten a calendar, they might be sold out. Sorry about your luck.
Yeah,
Matt
but
doesn't. We're filming this like 2 weeks in advance,
I
so
don't
Matt
know.
doesn't know when it comes
I
out.
don't know what's going on. But there was calendars.
Yes.
And if you didn't get on them, then
But our Black Friday sale is still going on.
Yes.
So parts on the website are parts, merch, that kind of stuff, 15% off. Head to the website. The code's already built in. You don't have to do anything extra. It ends at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday evening. So make sure you get there.
no discount like that. Well, maybe it depends on the car, but
Yes.
we generally don't discount cars.
I don't know if there'll be any cars for sale.
We'll see. We have a model, as of now, we have a Model T left.
Yes.
And the F100, if I decide I don't want it and somebody else wants it more than me. But
You're in over your head already. It's got a brand new set of brakes.
oh man, yeah, we got brakes in. I got time invested. A bottle of Marvel's Mystery Oil. So but yeah, so we don't generally discount the cars right away, but we're happy to haggle. And
Yep.
you could buy yourself a Model T coupe for
Christmas.
Christmas, or a loved one. It'd be great little gift.
I guess you could buy it and gift it to your wife. That's a way. That's like a way around
Yeah.
your wife getting mad. I bought this for you, honey.
Yeah, this is for you to drive,
Huh?
not me. Just you.
There's a lot of wives that are gonna be like, "You're not allowed to listen to this anymore."
Yeah. But otherwise, I think we have most of our traveling for the year's done.
You're currently in Florida when this comes out
Oh yeah, right now I'm in Florida.
on a little secret adventure. We won't tell you what he's getting, but he's
Yeah, a little-
picking up another project.
I looped Kate into this one, but we're a secret.
Well, it's because it's easy to loop her in. It's
Yeah,
you're
we're in Florida, and she loves Disney, and she was crying because we bought the mill, and I haven't agreed to do a little getaway. Her and I usually do like a day or two at Disney, a couple days at Disney, after Hershey a lot of times.
Yep.
That's her passion, and I just enjoy the food and snacks and whatever. I don't like crowds, so it's a test of my patience, but I looped her in, so.
I wonder have you guys ever gone after Thanksgiving, like this? Because you're going like the Friday after Thanksgiving.
I don't think so.
I wonder what the crowds would be like.
We don't know. I think it's a crapshoot no matter what.
Yeah. Well, it's busy. It's always there's no like non-busy time.
I don't know. Like I was saying to her, I'm like, maybe on Thanksgiving isn't too bad. And she looked it up, and apparently it's really bad because everyone, I think it's one of those things like auctions. Like when it rains, everybody goes, nobody's going to show up in the rain, and then
Yeah.
it's packed. So it's like Thanksgiving, everybody's like, nobody's going to go to Disney on
Thanksgiving.
So it is a lot of money. It's not necessarily my thing, but that's how she probably feels about what I spend on flathead speed equipment sometimes.
Or what you're going to pick up in Florida.
Yeah.
Disney's still cheaper than that.
Way cheap.
Yeah.
Barely. If we stayed for a couple more days, it'd
Yeah.
probably be even.
Balance out. Yeah, it's true.
But so anyways, that's what's going on.
So we'll have a video coming up in a couple weeks of Matt's Florida adventure.
Quick little Florida adventure, yeah, driving back. So that's what's going on with that stuff.
I don't think we have anything else really. As if you haven't noticed, every year basically we try and get all of our estates handled, and then in the winter we kind of take it easy. So we don't
Yeah.
really have anything in the works.
Yeah, we have plenty in the works, but it's just
Nothing on the books, I should say.
it's just a matter if we feel like going.
Yeah.
We do have we don't usually do like far away ones as much. So we have 2, 3, 5 at all
Local.
times that are, within a day's drive, anywhere from 10 minutes down the road to 5 hours
Yeah.
away, something we don't need to get on a plane for. So we may throw some of those in, but as it gets colder and colder, we're less inclined to do it. We have plenty of stuff to sell.
More than plenty.
Yeah, so we're still picking away at the mill. We've been making some good progress. I've been lucky enough to have some help from friends, and got the one big, huge, long, oldest part of the building that was the ugliest.
Yeah, the rail car building's 90%, minus that one floor we're going to possibly replace.
Yeah.
Almost everything's taken care of that we wanted to get done this year.
Yeah, the only thing we missed is just like getting the one side painted. And there's a back wall that we need to fix some boards, and there's still a little bit of shingles, but that's like we can do that in the spring or whatever. So it feels good to be like, okay, all the doors aren't going to fall off.
One did fall off yesterday.
Yeah, we just had to tighten it. Somebody forgot to tighten a jam nut on the hanger, but all the doors and the windows and the stuff on that building it feels good to be like
we're way ahead of where we wanted to be too, because at the
well,
start of summer we're like by the end of the year, like all the shingles off. Now all the shingles are off, all the doors are
yeah,
fixed.
but typical of me, as soon as we got going, I'm like, I want this whole building to be fixed and painted by winter.
True.
And we actually could have hit it. I mean, even if we got a warm week or two where Tony, that's been helping us with painting and stuff, if he could get over, we could probably have that done. And then we have an excavator lined up and a permit all set up for doing some groundwork and a retaining wall fixing on the one side of the building that's also going to make it look much nicer.
Yes.
So we pretty much just attacked the worst looking part of the property first, because I figure I myself, if I lived in that neighborhood, that's probably been an eyesore. So we figured we'd tackle it, get it out of the way. It's not fun because it's not like we're using it for storage, but it's not like you're going to walk in there and be like, wow, this is cool. Like the public isn't going to really go in that building because it's just going to be body panel storage and stuff. So, but here soon, now that we're getting past that, we could start doing some of the more fun stuff where we're going to hopefully eventually have a retail space, so we could start working on some of that. I'm imagining already today. I was over there like, this is going to be cool. We can do this. We can, put a little false window here, inside the, all that kind of stupid stuff. So,
and we're going to work on setting up the basement area for the parts business. So hopefully by spring or summer next year, we'll move everything there, and then we'll be working out of that building.
Yep.
Specifically, get everything out of the pole barn here over there, and then Luke and I will be working basically for the most part out of that property. Hopefully, we'll see how we get along.
Yeah, we never know, but we at least we got a head start even in that downstairs area with all that shelving we got. That's kind of like roughed in, so that part of it, just tweaking it, and
What's crazy too is that downstairs doesn't get that cold.
Yeah.
Because it's partially majority underground, it regulates. It doesn't get that cold, so we can go over this winter and continue to organize and set stuff up how we like. So hopefully this winter we'll get some stuff lined up and ready to rock and roll for the spring.
I think like we always do that. Even here, it's like if you look at the weather, and it's like, oh, next week's going to be, warm for the winter for us. And it's like, it's going to be a week in the 40s. Okay, well, let's plan on knocking some stuff out. So that's what we'll be doing at the mill, this winter. And fingers crossed we get, even knock on wood, that we get, that's metal, but that we get a favorable winter for us. You never know. So we got plenty of wood to burn for the shop here.
Yeah, that trailer is packed.
We brought I don't know how long that trailer is, 20 foot long?
I think it's 20 foot.
20 foot long, 6 foot tall walls or 5 foot tall walls in it. It is packed front to back, top to bottom with wood that we've removed off of the building, out of the different areas that are just kicking around. So,
and there's still more.
There's a lot more, actually. There's like all the little pieces from the feed bins that we cut off and knocked off. There's a huge pile in the corner that we didn't even get to yet. So as we burn through this stuff, we'll go over there. But I think there's going to be days where we're just feeding planks, old planks, and tongue and groove and stuff like that. That's and for anybody that's gonna cry, it's literally like
Broken pieces of wood.
broken pieces. The half of it's rotted, so it's not even gonna burn great. But like, it's just, believe me, we're saving as much as we can. But when it gets down to below 12 inches, there's no reason to keep
Yeah.
like we could have trash can full. We literally have trash can fulls of that.
Yeah.
Trash cans full. That's it. And on that note, we're gonna
Yes.
get into our podcast. So that's us babbling on about
Yep.
me babbling on. So, today's topic.
Do you remember what it is?
Yes, I do. I actually was thinking about this topic. I was just working this winter. My focus this winter, because I'm trying to get better at that, is I'm going to mainly focus on the Arden car and the 33 3-window. So getting back into that. That car is very much a car that is built in a old style way with 99% old parts and a lot of hand fabricated pieces.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about, as I'm working, I built the shock mounts for it, and I used F1 shock mounts as a jump off point or a base, which I feel like is what guys have been doing since tube shocks were kind of started to be used in a factory setting. So I always reach for the F1 mounts because it's like they're sturdy, they're good. You can heat and bend them, you can do all kinds of stuff with them, and then in the end they look the part when they're done. So it got me thinking as I was working on that, like how much I enjoy the hand-built one-off pieces on my cars, but also on old-time hot rods. Like when you look at a car that's the real deal, built back in the day, whether it's a famous car or it's a car like the Schroll car or something like that that's maybe a little more crude, but there's hand-built one-off pieces on it. I think that's one of my favorite things about old, traditional or old style, old school hot rods, is how there was no rules back in the day and everything was kind of hand built to whatever you thought would work. Some guys were utilitarian and it was just a piece of angle iron with holes drilled. And then there's other people that were like, you know what, if I line these up this way and I make a little bracket with some speed holes, it would look cool, So that got me into thinking, it's like now with social media, you see a lot of different people building traditional cars or old school hot rods and customs, and there's now this like divide. Not divide. There's kind of like these two different banks. So there's a lot of guys that are building traditional cars that are building stuff using. I mean, it has a flathead in it, but like all the pieces on it are very much like CNC cut.
3D printed with metal now, too.
Yeah, 3D printed and all that stuff, which I want to start off the podcast by saying I am not talking shit on any of that. I think there's a place for all of it.
Yes.
It's more, this is just a discussion about all of that. So you're seeing more and more, especially when you get into like what cars are winning these big events.
Yeah, like any entrance into Grand National, the Riddler, any of those big shows, any of the good guys stuff.
There's
95% of those cars they all have something CNC'd or 3D printed or any of that kind of stuff.
It's very, and I think it's with the tools and the companies that are out there, it's making it way more affordable and accessible for the average guy or girl to build a hot rod or custom using those, you got that send
I was just going to say that,
place where you can draw something up or have a file and they'll make you some pieces.
And they're actually really affordable.
Yeah, that's
I
what
was reading a thread on, I forget what Facebook group, but they were discussing of like what they sent in and what it costs, and it's really super cost effective.
Yeah, so I think there is a place for that, and I also think there's a way where you can bring your quality of work up. This is where I struggle because there's times when I do stuff and I'm like, man, the quality of what the finished product would have been better if I would have started out with these pieces CNC cut. I'm using a hole saw to cut a hole and there's a little burr or a little spot where, whatever. There's stuff like that where it's decent. And I struggle with that sometimes because you want to do work that's to a certain quality, or if you're trying to make your work better, you start realizing the limitations. And sometimes I'm like, I can weld half decent, I could fabricate, whatever. But really the limitation is the human error part of it. So you're taking that out of it. And you're seeing that more and more where guys are doing, a lot of that stuff. Hello.
Hello.
We're in Florida right now.
According to this podcast, you are in Florida right
We're
now.
in Florida right now.
Oh.
So we might be on a ride. We're probably standing in line. Sure. I'll get there when I get there.
Well,
What time was my appointment for?
I don't remember. Because I was staying late.
6. So
Probably.
I'll aim to be there before my appointment.
Well, you don't really get appointments because you don't pay. So.
Well, you make me schedule an appointment like a normal person. So I guess that would be called an appointment. When you make a time and a place, 2 people decide.
Mom and Dad, stop fighting. Are
That's
you
called an
getting a
appointment.
divorce?
It's literally the definition of an appointment. You can Google that.
I don't like the way you're speaking to me.
Who am I going to have to live with when you guys get a divorce?
We're not married.
I know. I'm leaving that in the podcast because it's kind of funny. Mom and Dad are fighting, and I'm just awkwardly sitting here on the couch.
That's what happens.
What?
I don't know.
He doesn't even know what he's talking about.
Obviously, you don't, because you didn't know the definition of an appointment.
Just leave, please. Just leave. I can't take the fighting anymore.
Love you, bye.
I don't think he actually does. Bye, Moon. Love you.
Okay, see ya.
He didn't reply, so I don't think he really does. Didn't even... Oh,
Yeah, hi,
You
Mom.
want to come in?
No.
No.
he was just getting up as the woman was leaving the room.
Come here, you do good boy.
I thought she was going to take me.
Are we going to have to start this whole podcast over? Because we...
Well, a bunch of that's going to get cut.
Okay, after our disruption,
Yep.
we were talking
It
about...
was not by Moon this time.
Yes, not by Moon. We were talking about the hand-built versus the pre-made or fabricated, whatever, and its place in traditional hot rodding and whatever. So I think the real answer to all of this that we're going to discuss today will be build your car however the fuck you want to build your car, and you be happy with how you want to build it. I think there is a balance between what you want the car to be and what you want to do with it, which is something we talk about a lot. So if you are really, really, really into the nostalgia of building a car that looks like it was built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, you have to think about what you're building and how you're building it, and if it kind of works with that. So I think some people go so nerdy as, literally using old tools to do everything, which I think is super cool. I'm not quite that dedicated. So torch welding everything, get oxyacetylene welding.
And we've had comments about that before.
Yeah.
When you did the Sweetheart Roadster, Matt made like these filler panels for the hairpin, had them CNC plasma cut, and then welded them into the hairpins. And there was someone that commented saying, is it considered a traditional hot rod if you use modern tools to build it? Which, I mean...
Yeah, and I think there is a balancing point between that. I think that my goal... I think in the end, when that car's done, because what I was planning to do was to, kind of like chrome those hairpins. And yes, I TIG welded them. Now, this is where people get really crazy about it. Like, TIG welding was out in the 50s.
Yes.
There was that form of welding was not as common as it is today, but it was there. And some of the real high-end cars and race cars, there was, guys that were coming back from the military and they had training to do that type of work. So there was that being done. So you could argue that is still something that could have been done while not as common. But I don't try not to get into pissing wars over all these technicalities. For me, what brought up the interesting topic for me was all these, when we see some of these famous cars, some of the little things that have been replicated over the years started out as a hand-built one-off kind of piece. So the way the headlight stands are, things like that. So like, for instance, a common thing nowadays that you see a lot is headlight stands that have the shock mounts like built into it. In fact, I think they even sell them now
Yes, they do.
that are like made like that. That started out as something where a guy just was taking a set of F1 shock mounts, heating and bending them, and goes, oh, you know what? If I weld another headlight section of a headlight bar from a 32 headlight bar on here, I can now hold my headlights and shocks all in one. And that's kind of how.
I mean, the other thing is the headlight mounts themselves. You can literally buy headlight mounts that look like cut off pieces of headlight
Yes.
bar. And I used them on my car because I found a pair that were new with chrome. They were, reproduction that were chrome. So saved me a step of having to make them. But I mean, it's literally just an end of a headlight bar that's cut and then bent the way that you want it, which started as someone did that way back. I mean, people have been doing it forever.
Right.
It's a newer company was like, we should just start making them. They're super easy to make. So it's like you can make it yourself with a Model A headlight bar or just buy them brand new. So it's one of those things like.
And in the end of the day, that they both basically look the same. So I don't, I've had instances where I took a shortcut to do that, method of starting with, for instance, starting with some pre-made hairpins and then doing them, customizing them to make them, how I want. Now, again, you can argue the fact, like the hairpins, back in the day, you could buy hairpin kits, eventually that, offered those parts to do that on your own. But some of the stuff I was kind of talking about is like when we're looking at some of these famous cars, you see, and whenever I go to like Grand National, LA Roadster Show, we go to Three Dog Garage, which is, has a great correction here. You go to the Peterson. Any of these places have a load of historic cars. I usually end up taking close-up photos of all those one-off pieces. How did they make the shock mount? How did they make the motor mounts? What did they use? How did they do it? The exhaust hangers, guy thought of a neat way to do that. And that's all the stuff that I think there's been I don't want to say a divide, but there's like, the traditional quote-unquote world. You got a lot of these real sterile builds that are now becoming, to me, and this isn't talking down, it's the same people who would have had a street rod in the early 2000s or 90s, same person that would have had a street rod in the 70s. That's the same type of person that now just the trends have changed a little bit. And a nostalgic looking street rod is what I'm going to call it, is being built that's very sterile, there's this aesthetic. I don't even know how to put my thumb on what it is, but there's this theme that you see it into like the Cerakoting parts, and then like the gunmetal gray and
It's
the muted
sterile would be plain. It's like very plain, very sterile.
Almost military-esque kind of look to some of the stuff. Like that's found its way into the traditional hot rodding world, and you're seeing a lot of that. It looks cool. There's some really phenomenal cars that are being done that way, and a lot of them are using those types of parts or way that they're building that it's almost too perfect. Like, for me, those cars are fantastic, but it's the same idea as a street rod or something where you look at it. It's not that the car doesn't have soul, but it's just like it's so perfect and everything's got this same. When you see a lot of those cars together at some of these big events, they all kind of start to blend together, not in a bad way. Again, people always get upset when we say this stuff, but it's just like a lot of those cars, the super heavy hammered front axle that's got the crazy drop to it. The car's sitting real low, and it's got the either Halibrands or
some billet CNC'd wheels
that are Cerakoted to look like they're Halibrand wheels or whatever. There's this aesthetic that is fucking badass. Those cars all look amazing. And you open the hood, they probably have a big block or a small block Chevy under it that, or some sort of fuel injection that looks like it's Hillborn or something like that. They even make these like Stromberg looking carbs, but they're actually fuel injectors now. Like all that stuff's cool. It looks nostalgic, but it doesn't look like, if you're going for the truly nostalgic thing, that's where there's that divide. And I think those cars are phenomenal. I'd much rather see a car like that personal taste over, a 90s billet street rod. But I think they're, in the end of the day, they're kind of a lot of the same DNA is in those.
Yeah.
The people that are owning those cars or having them built want to be able to drive them cross country. They want to go to these faraway shows. They want
Drive
to
them on the highway.
drive them on the highway like a modern car. You
Yep.
can drive. I drove the Stroll car on the highway. I was keeping up with traffic. It felt like I was driving in 1953 or 1958 because the car's loud. It stinks. It rides okay, but it doesn't ride great.
Yep.
Bias ply tires and it's following the road. Like there's a very distinct difference between those types of cars, and while they're both the same DNA, they're different. And I just got to thinking about, like, I actually really enjoy the imperfections of the true old hand-built hot rods. I like that the brackets maybe, and I've been trying to think about this more because I struggle with that when I'm building something like the Arden car. I was building the shock mounts and obsessing over stuff being like perfect, and I'm getting the laser out and you go down this path and it's like, let's slow down. Does it look cool when you walk up to the car and you see that car? Does it look cool? Is that mount 2 degrees bent a little different than the other one because you literally bent it with an oxyacetylene torch, and there's really no way other than by eye to get it perfect, or heating and bending it 100 times.
And I always have this conversation with Matt. I'll walk in the shop and he's got the laser out and he's obsessing. Like with the shock mounts, where we held the headlights where he wants to mount them. I was like, you can't fucking see anything that you're obsessing over right now.
The day before, when you weren't even there, Luke, end of the day, it was going out of control, spiraling out of control. I'm having a fucking meltdown over all this stuff that wasn't quite correct. The grill was, cocked a little bit. All these things compounded that there was an issue. And I got the laser out, and we're 2 hours into me obsessing over stuff. And Luke walks in, end of the day, totally doesn't even know what's going on. And he's like, well, what are you doing for headlights? I'm like, I got those lights over there, and I'm going to set them like right here. He's like, well, you can't even see anything that you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, wait, you're totally right.
I walked in on that. I walked in as he had the laser, and I did the Homer Simpson thing. I just walked in the shop. I was like, I don't need to be in here, and just walked right back out. I was like, this looks like a mess. I'm just going to go to the other building right now.
Yeah, so in the end of the day, the shock mounts were sturdy. They're going to work. They're going to be safe. It was just where you start obsessing, and there's that level of that's all in yourself, how perfect you want the car to be. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I've already spent more time on this than someone, if they were building that car in 1948, 1950, whatever the year you're going to pick to try and build your car around. I've already spent way more time on this than anyone would have done. They would have heated and bent some mounts, put the other one on, heated and bent it. The shocks are fine. They do their job. Let's keep moving forward and get this thing on the road. So it's like sometimes I have to remember that, I was obsessing over like how I bent, the one bend was drawn out a little more than the other one. And we got the angle finder out, and they were within a degree or two of each other. Also melted my angle finder because I was obsessing, and I'm like, well, it's hot. I'm like, Steve, just touch it and see if the angle's right, and it's like melting. I'm like, okay, pull it off. Like,
that's not the first one we've melted.
No, but I think for me, the process is a big part of what I like about process of finding, building, creating custom cars, and you have to enjoy that process. So I do enjoy the free flow of just starting with a blank area, and you go, we need shocks. What do I need to do to connect the dots to create something? And I'm not going to instantly just open up Speedway's catalog. I'm not going to, draw something up in CAD, and have all these data points. That there is a place for that, and that is great. I think there is a slight loss if you're if you like the nostalgia of building cars old way with old parts. If you instantly jump to the computer and do the CAD stuff, there is a little bit of that art that's lost to it that I like of hand
just problem solving.
Yeah. Well, I just like nothing. You can't replicate what I built for those mounts in a CNC. No. Yes, you could to a degree, but like the imperfection is what makes them so interesting, and that's what I like about.
And
the
I think
stuff.
what gets lost, I think a lot of in translation from, what they did in the 50s to now is a lot of people are just using photos as inspiration. And a lot of the old photos, you can't see those little imperfections as well because A, they're black and white.
Yep.
A, they're, from far away. But, we have the luxury of finding these old hot rods, old race cars, and seeing how crude and a lot of them were on the road with really crude, kind of sketchy by today's standard setups, and we're able to see the actual how they were done. Where a
Yeah.
lot of people are just like, they go to shows and they see modern stuff, modern builds, and they're like, I like hot rods, I wanted to get into hot rods, and they're looking at photos and missing
Yeah.
that there was not. I mean, all those cars you see in the little books, they all had imperfections. They were
Yeah.
all probably very, if not extremely sketchy built.
Well, that's what we talk about in the, like we just did that episode on
Yeah.
the magazines. Like, people pick out the top 1% cars, and that's what we're all replicating for our traditional or nostalgic builds. When there was all these other ideas going on, good and bad, that were done that makes those cars so unique. So some of those less famous hot rods, it's kind of neat because those are the cars that have some stuff that's not the same.
Yeah.
So that's
And also, a lot of those old cars that have been restored now, they look perfect from the outside.
Yep.
But unless you lay under them and really look, like, which one of the Three Dog cars did they document the process on?
well the
Was it
the
the
Cookie
Tea?
Tea, they, when you're watching like the updates on the ham and stuff and then seeing the car, there's some stuff on that they left. They had restraint. They left like the way the rear spring mounts were welded or whatever. And there's some of that stuff that's crude, but they cleaned up, and I enjoy that. Now, in the same breath, they built these headers and triple chromed everything to the point where it's like the same chrome that's on a Duesenberg. That's like, and that car's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
not talking shit on it. I'm just like, so there's some of that stuff where it's nicer than it probably ever was. But the car is amazing, and there's no. But when we see these restored, famous hot rods and customs, a lot of them are done much higher level than what they would have been done.
Yeah,
back
so
in
the outside, they look like perfect. And you have to get really close to see the
Yeah.
weld imperfections. And sometimes they get re-welded.
They get a lot of those high end cars, they redo all that.
Yeah.
So you're missing, all that stuff is gone. So you're thinking that that's how a traditional
Yeah.
or a car was back in the day. Where I think I laugh to myself that a lot of guys that are on Instagram that are home building hot rods or have small little shops, those guys would have been the Barris, the Winfield.
Because if you think about it, the
the-
majority of the kids that were hot rodding were like 18 to 25.
But I'm saying that the guys that are really famous, the icons, Alexander Brothers,
Yeah.
all that stuff, there's guys in our world now that are doing cars that are just mid-level hot rod shops. Let's call it that. I'm not saying that their work isn't
yeah,
good.
I see what you
They're
mean.
not doing the most beautiful roadster cars or Riddler cars. They're just building normal. A good guy. A good example is like Andy Kohler.
Yeah.
Like building bitchin' traditional style cars. He does a lot of stuff the old way. Love everything he does. He's not building Riddler cars, but if he would be the Winfield, he would be the Alexander because he's putting out, his body of work is really good.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's just, because of social media and how everyone's quality has gone up, he's just another one of many guys that are very talented that are putting out really solid, unique cars.
Yep.
But if you would have taken him and put him in 1950, he would have been another Winfield. He would have been any
Yes.
of these guys. And that's what's kind of crazy. Like the work that I'm doing is much, much higher level than the average guy back in the day. And I could have been, I feel like some of the stuff I do, I'm like, it's better than what Winfield was, the quality of work, just because on some of the stuff. I'm not saying I'm better than Winfield. Everybody's like,
That's
fuck
going to
this
get
guy.
clipped by
Yeah,
someone.
yeah, fuck that guy. No, I'm just saying that seeing some of Winfield's work in person and some of the old cars he did, the quality of work, just because we're more educated, is so much higher.
Yep.
Just by nature, I'm doing better quality work than a lot of those well-known customizers were doing. You know, the Bears stuff. There's lots of folklore about how much lead they were putting on over the work because they were trying to get stuff, smooth. It's like we're just lucky that we have modern fillers and paints and TIG welders that we can do better work nowadays. And every average guy probably has an English wheel and a bead roller because of Eastwood and Harbor Freight.
Yeah.
And Woodward Fab and all those companies. So, sometimes it's your stuff gets so nice that our standards are so much higher that we're going way beyond that. And that's where it goes to, like, because you go down that path, you're like, well, I'm going to draw up a file for motor mounts. I'm going to send them to Send Cut Send. I'm going to TIG weld them up and build this, like, sterile, build where sometimes I try and step back and, like, here's the parts I have, and I'm going to build something for what I have by hand.
Yeah.
And when it's done, it is not going to be perfect. It's going to be cool. It's going to be nice, but it's not going to be perfect. But that's what I'm going for, is that in-between, world of type of car.
Yeah.
And
I think it adds a little bit more character, too, because people,
Yeah.
I mean, on all the cars, like, especially the Pagoda City Coupe, it has the Volkswagen style steering box mount. And everyone always asks, what steering box mount is that? And you're like, well, I made it, but it's like the the split window bus steering box mount.
And I just read that in a couple of cars in old magazines. They listed that the steering box was a Volkswagen bus or, type 2 Volkswagen steering box or mount. And that, like, makes you start going down the rabbit hole of research. You're like, oh, man, those are cool. They mount on the bottom of the frame. Some dude was probably in a junkyard and goes, oh, man, that's like a universal way to mount the steering box. On channel cars, we can put it on top of the frame. And,
Yep.
So, yeah, and I didn't have one of those mounts.
And they were
expensive.
hard,
Yeah,
because those buses are now very sought after and
worth
expensive.
they're worth more than a lot of early Fords. So it's like, well, I'm going to hand build one. I don't have anything else, and what do I do? And I had, tubing. You had round bar stock, and you grind it and weld it and shape it and create the thing you're going for. And that you can go and buy a reproduction steering box mount for a split window bus now. And you can go get the same thing that I did, sort of, and it will do the same thing.
Yep.
But when you put the two of them together, only the one on my car is going to look like that, because it's hand built, it's not perfect, and it's a one-off piece for that car. It won't fit on any other car because it was built to that car. And that's what I think is what makes it cool. And if you went and bought a Volkswagen steering box mount,
You're not cool.
I'm not saying you're not cool. I think it's super cool because it's not a lot of guys are doing that. I think it's very cool. But that's where I break off into my, the even nerdier stuff, where it's like the hand-built pieces on every car, what makes it so unique. And sometimes when we do videos, people will comment, because sometimes the things I'm saving or using or working around doesn't make sense. It's like, well, why wouldn't you just cut that off and start fresh? And it's like, but that's the old school real hot rod piece that I'm using, that we, like on the 33 with the shock mount thing, how this all conversation started. I have an old set of chrome wishbones, and they have some kind of janky, but they're fine, welded shock mounts on the wishbones, and everything's chromed. And it's like, I could cut them off and I could have started with something fresh, but I'm going to use those, and then I'm going to build my own mount. And I'll have my little mounts that I hand built that aren't perfect chromed. And when it's all together, it'll all look like I found those pieces all together. And for me, that's my biggest, what I get at, enjoy, is that if somebody walks up to a car and goes, man, you found it all like this, or when was this built? And whether it's a car like the Schroll car that we found, and I did a sympathetic restoration and then filled in the blanks with stuff that was missing. When somebody looks at that as a whole, they don't go, that was built yesterday. Everything, especially that car driving out, things are a little rusty, things are oily and covered in gas, and everything looks like it was, done.
That actually happened with my car this summer.
Really?
I forget where I was with it. Someone was like, "So where'd you find this thing?" Like well, I found it in 10 million pieces, and then we put it all together, and that's how
Created
Yeah.
this thing, yeah.
He's like, "Oh, okay," because it just looks like it was, pulled out of a barn. I was like, "That's the look we're going for. It's
Yeah,
a giant
it's-
piece of shit."
So I think that's the part where now, but on the flip side, I sometimes get frustrated with myself because the quality of what I'd like it to be, if I just would do, that stuff, start with pieces that were made, it would save a lot of time, that's for sure.
Definitely.
And sometimes my stubbornness doesn't. You could send something to Send Cut Send, get it back, weld it all up and blend the welds and make it look, media blasted so it looks like it was cast, and nobody would know any better. And I could hand build mine, and it would take way longer, probably not be as nice of a finish in the end.
But does it take longer? Because
Yeah,
send
well-
consent, you got to send them a file and then wait for them to cut it, and
Yeah, true.
the process start to finish, depending on what.
If you're including wait time,
Yeah.
yeah, true.
Because like send cut send, you're only sending like a couple pieces. They do it by like size of order.
So it
It's
might
like-
take a few days or a week to get it
Yeah.
back. That's true. And in that time, I could have built that piece in 2 days.
Yeah, but if you have your own plasma table, and you're
Yeah.
can CNC cut your own plasma,
Well, that's what you're starting to see now
Yeah.
more of.
especially
is that
since the smaller tables are so
affordable.
very
yeah.
affordable now.
Yeah, so that's where you see that. And I go back and forth on that because we've had comments on people, why don't you get a plasma table? Eastwood actually sells a CNC plasma table that's for, home hobbyists or small shop. And it's like, well, I could easily get something from them and do it. But I'm like, I don't enjoy... I don't think I'll enjoy as much drawing something up on a computer
Yeah.
and plasma cutting it. Like that part of the process, I don't think I would enjoy. Where drawing it up on a piece of paper in the shop and then starting to make it and kind of free forming the piece, I think I enjoy that way more.
That's also like how metal shaping's done.
Yeah.
You start with a rough pattern and then you just shape it and keep going. So it's
So
they
it's
kind of go
refined, yeah.
they go hand in hand.
So I that part of it's neat, but I think there is a balance that's done. But there's
There's no right way to build a hot rod.
no.
You could be at one end of the spectrum, have everything ordered from a catalog. Another end of the spectrum, you have everything CNC made and 3D. They do 3D forming now, metal shaping. So it's
Yeah.
like there's different ends of the spectrum. You could do it all with hand tools like they did back in the day and gas weld. There's no correct way to do it.
Yeah, I just think it's we have these conversations a lot more because of our business. So we interact with a lot of customers,
Yeah.
and we've talked about it in a bunch of podcasts. I think a lot of people, what they say and what they do gets confused, and the end product is a confusing car.
Mm-hmm.
So a good instance is the vehicle that we got, that Model A two-door sedan.
Yep.
That we bought from an estate recently, or a collection gentleman was selling us. And basically him and his son, mainly his son, were putting together an old school car. They found an old Model A sedan hot rod that has the NHRI sticker on the window still, and the old Missouri, inspection sticker, blue with racing stripes,
Yep.
chrome garnish molding, and like they put it on they made a reproduction 32 frame, and it's got disc brakes and a drop axle from Speedway or whoever, 9-inch rear, reverse Corvair box, flathead with an automatic. And like, you look at the body, and it's this bitchin' 60s kind of hot rod or drag car, and then everything underneath of it doesn't match the...
It's quote unquote like modern almost.
Yeah. And yes, it's a flathead, but like everything else is kind of like... and in their defense, he did say like they were just using whatever extra parts were left over from cars he had, and that's what. And he wasn't trying to present his cars as old, like this is a whatever period correct car. He was just building nostalgic, traditional type cars, using some of these pieces to make them more drivable. But that was a good example. We have a lot of customers that will call us. I want to build an old school hot rod. I went to Trog last year, and I want to build an old school car. I want a flathead, and then there's all this stuff they give us. Well, I I don't want to have to shift, so I want to put an automatic in it, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And there's all these
Caveats.
yes, and you're like, well, what you want to build is not the car you saw on the beach when you went with your,
Yeah.
with your wife. Like, that's not the car. So I think, and then when the car's done, it's different than what they originally wanted to start with. So
Yeah.
that's where we try and like just talk through with the customer, because we'd hate to, or they call us and they want, I'm building an old school trog type car. That's a common thing we get.
Yes,
It's
all
like
the time.
conversation starts a lot, and we usually giggle because most of the time they don't want to build a car. It's like, have you ever ridden in a car?
That's
like
usually the conversation I always have with them. Have you driven one? Have you ridden in one?
It's not as fun as you think it is.
Oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to drive it all over and be like,
Okay.
sure, I'll sell you all the parts you need.
Yeah,
but-
I want to use everything old school. And you're like, all right, you need a 39 box, these juice brakes, but start telling all this stuff. And then we've had instances where customers put their car on the road, and then we see them somewhere, they're like, or they email us and they go, is there a trick to making these brakes work better? You're like, not really. They're 39 Ford brakes. Like, best you can do is arch the shoes and cut the drums and do all that, and they will work decent, but they will never be like the brakes that are on your 60s car. Like the drum brakes are not as good, and the technology wasn't there. So it's like, oh, well, that sucks. I don't want, I'm scared to drive it with those brakes being that crazy. It's like, well, that means you need to go to either Lincoln style brakes that they make reproductions of, which are better but still drum brakes, or you need to go the modern route and you need to hide disc brakes in a drum, and they offer all these solutions now. And that's where you have to decide what you're looking to do. I think sometimes also the hand-built one-off pieces versus the more sterile stuff is people want speed. A lot of people don't enjoy the build process as much as others, so they want to open up Speedway. They want to get the pre-made headlight stands, hairpins, drop axle, all the stuff, and they want to put a car together and get it on the road by next summer. And that's where some of those cars don't always have the soul.
Yeah.
That they have all the pieces to make them traditional and old school, but that hand-built portion is always, to me, the cars that draw me in whenever we go anywhere. And that's where I singled out Andy Kohler, because I feel like Andy builds fucking bitchin' cars that are a lot of hand-built shit. When you see his cars, you're like, man, that thing is hammered. His Roadster he was driving, he's a super tall guy, hammered down. And it's like, well, how the hell is he driving that comfortably? And then you see all this one-off stuff he did that just works, and you're like, holy crap! To me, that's part of this hobby that I love. That is very much like the old days. I think the one year we went to, our friend Zach has a picnic every year at his place, and we went there, and Andy drove a couple of his Roadster and one of the customers' pickup truck that's bitching also.
Yeah.
And you saw Andy get out of the car, and you're like, how the hell? And then he's happy to show you, and you're like, I never thought about doing something that way. And that's like the stuff that I feel like back in the day, no internet, guy rolls up to a show, and you're like, how the hell did he how did he do that? How did he fit that? And you're crawling around the car, and then you as a hobbyist or a builder then take those pieces and do your own version of that. And it all starts with that hand-built one-off idea that wasn't data points in the CN, and 3D rendering, and then came out to this perfect.
My favorite conversation to have with people, you were talking about Speedway.
Yeah.
Was when they order something from Speedway and they're trying to build a hot rod, and they're like, yeah, I bought this from Speedway and it doesn't fit. It's like, welcome to hot rodding. Make it fit.
Yeah.
Or they'll buy like a used part from us and they're trying to use it in a different application. They're like, it doesn't quite fit right. I'm like, you just make it fit.
Well, everybody was using insert part here back in the day. Yeah. Everybody, first thing they did was got their torch out and heated and bent it and modified it. So you're just using it as a jump off point. And you can just go one step further and just start from a scrap of metal.
Nope.
And you can machine it and heat it and bend it. And that's another thing. Most people nowadays that are serious hobbyists have a lathe or a mill, whether it's big or small, in their shop. And the average guy didn't have a lathe or a mill
Yeah.
access to it. But so there's always those argument points. But I would argue most guys back in the day had a buddy that worked at a machine shop because he was in the military and came
Yep.
back and was educated, got a job at a machine shop. So they had their buddy. A lot of times when we talk to these old timers, it's like, yeah, my first hot rod, my buddy worked at a welding shop or a machine shop. We went over after hours and made XYZ parts. And it's like, so they had access to it. It just wasn't in their home garage. Or buddy's dad owned a chrome shop, so he went over and got all their stuff chromed, and there was all these things. So that stuff was being done. It just was, Bobby down on the farm in Missouri in the middle of nowhere, he might not have had as much access to it, and his stuff was more crude. But there was guys building higher.
Which we've seen that. Some of the cars we find out in the middle of nowhere, quote unquote, are
really crude.
are kind of scary.
Yeah, and that stuff is, that's the reality of it.
There's different levels
of it. But I think that, like, when I'm getting into building any of these, cars, that's the thought process. Like the 33, I'm like trying to. There is some stuff on the car that, when we were doing the engine, that maybe isn't. I bent a little bit on it, so you won't ever hear me say that everything is exactly correct. But there is some stuff where it's like it would bother my eye too much to do it. Like we have a power gen hidden on there because there wasn't enough space to fit a stock generator with the blower and all the stuff going on, and I kind of begrudgingly bought a stubby power gen. Kind of looks like a generator if you don't know any better.
But it's also customized.
It is customized.
Yes.
The back plate Ron machined, and he fit in there. He did a great job. He I think made the pulley for it from scratch on there, machined it. So there's some stuff like that like my totally period correct side of me, it like bugs me. But like the other option was putting a generator somewhere weird or hanging it way off the car, and I wouldn't have liked that and that's where you look at the old photos, that's what they would have done because they didn't have the options we had. And they would have a generator that was sticking way off outside the grill, and it's a little kooky looking. So I've learned to bend on that. But as a whole picture, I don't want everything on the car to be bought modern parts, so to speak. So
and we apply that same. If you think about like the root essence of what we're talking about, we're also applying that to the mill too.
Yeah.
Everything we're doing at the mill is in the same breath. We could have just knocked that whole building down
Started
and
fresh.
just put a brand new pole barn up. But
Yep.
we're kind of hand making and redoing stuff.
If we were smart, probably knocking it down or paying one of these salvage companies to buy all the old wood and then
Just build a new
take
building.
it down, and then we just take that money that they give us and build a new pole barn. Probably would have been smarter, but I didn't buy that property because we could do that, or we could bulldoze it or whatever. It's like we want to retain the character and modify it. So we're literally doing the same stuff like Mike's saying to the building, where it's like I was just today, my one friend that's been helping me there, I was over just today and we're like, so like the feed bins, I'm like, we could knock all these boards down and it's all great tongue and groove, and then we could take that downstairs and we could put it up on the wall in this area where we're putting up a false wall we're studded out, and we put all these boards up, and when it's all done you won't know there's modern insulation behind it.
Yep.
And it'll look like this is all one thing. And I like that that's what I like about everything I do. I like that repurposing or taking what is there and making it better, or making it
It's like when we go to Carlisle where you bought that 32 dash and grill from that guy. Had a kick-ass old hot rod, and he bought all Speedway shit and like transformed the car, but you could tell the body was like an old hot rod. Had like a brand new grill on it, a brand new dash in it. It's like, I bet this thing was probably pretty killer before you fucked it up.
Yeah, and we see that a lot. It's just people all instantly go to, well, I want to just put new stuff on. I don't like how they did whatever. So that a lot of people can't live with the crudeness or imperfections of an old hot rod, and I struggle with it. The DeLorean car has a fucking wonky headlight on it because it's got a different fender on one side than the driver's side, and when we put it all together, the one headlight sits just a little lower than the other. And then we found out through me talking to Jack DeLorean and looking at old photos. Look at the old photos, the headlight's lower on that side. You could see it in the old black and
It's
white
just the
photos.
32 thing. The 32 two-door sedan's the same way.
It's because people swap fenders,
Yeah.
and the mounts and the fender sits a little lower. And we found out that when the DeLorean car was at the dealership, the used car lot they were selling it at, it had some sort of bang up where they banged the fender up, and I guess it was replaced. And I don't know if it's an early and late 32 thing
Or
or
a early reproduction thing.
not quite sure, but like when I got all the parts with the DeLorean car, all the old black paint matches. It's not like it's a different fender from a different car. And the two-door sedan, it's obvious that car was resprayed and some stuff was replaced at some point, so probably same thing. The fender was banged up. So the DeLorean car specifically, it really irked me, but I'm like, literally the old photos from 1953, it's the same exact thing. So it bothers me, but it's how it was.
Yeah.
And I don't, now that I've had it on the car for a while, it doesn't bother me anymore. But in the beginning, I was like, oh, I hate that.
And also, as you're building a car, you're hyper-focusing on what you're working on. If another person would walk in and look at it, they would not be able to pinpoint what you're hyper-focusing on, like as your hand making something. It's because you're hyper-focused on that.
That's a problem for myself.
Yeah.
I'm so focused on that thing. And every single car, it happens where I hyper-focus on that thing. And then a year or two later when the car's done, I probably couldn't even remember what that thing was. The Mercury has stuff like that's in the bodywork and in the panels I made that is imperfect. There's some stuff I don't like. It irks me. When I look at it, I notice it, but the more I've been driving it, the less it just kind of becomes part of the car, and you're not like, no, that little weird spot, that shadow, I hate that because I didn't quite do the bodywork.
I remember on the Arden car when you were doing the blisters earlier this year, where there was like some slight little difference, and I was like, to be brutally honest, no one gives a fuck about your blisters. They're going to look at the Arden that's right above it.
Yeah.
The blisters are just there. They're going to notice them, but they're not going to stare at them because
That's
there's
just
a blown Arden right there. It's like, I understand you're hyper-focusing, but there's a blown Arden right there.
Yeah, just forget about it. Yeah,
Everyone's eyes are going to look right at the Arden. They're not looking at anything
And then the
else.
more you stack things around there that complete the car, it becomes less and less of a focal point. You put the headlights, the shock mounts, all this stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, what was I complaining about?
Exactly.
I don't even remember anymore. And that's where, if you were competing for some sort of high-end award, yes, everything's got to be perfect and symmetrical and exactly surgically clean. And it's like, but that's the stuff that won't make it. That's where it starts looking like it's a car that was built to win awards versus a cooled hot rod that you're just driving.
Do you think we could submit that for the Grand National?
Nothing. That's why I laugh sometimes in our comments, like with the Sweetheart Roadster and stuff. People are like, "Oh man, building this car to be the, most beautiful award winner." I'm like, no, nothing I'm building is, it's hobbyist level is about what I'm building.
I wonder what it's required to submit for that.
I don't know. I think some of it is a money thing. I think it costs a certain amount of money, and because we've seen contending cars there that are obviously not going to win.
Yeah.
But it's just to get your car in is like a big deal. So there's probably every year there's probably a handful of cars there that's like they just wanted to be accepted to compete, and the car is no way is it going to contend. Last handful of years, the cars that have won have been so head and shoulders above almost everything else that it's shoe in at that point. But
you should submit the Sweetheart Roadster for that.
Yeah, no. I don't have the attention to detail.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want the stress.
Yeah, that is stressful.
I don't even like. Yeah.
You'd also flake. You'd be like, I don't feel like driving to California. Never mind, we're not going.
This is stupid. But I don't like. I mean, the other thing that's interesting is when you build a car to that level and put it on a stage like that, you are setting yourself up for every Tom, Dick, and Sally to fucking pick your car apart. Even if the dude can barely pick his own nose, he's going to tell you how it's something you did on the car, they don't like it, or that shade of whatever. So, like, for me, I'd rather, be brutally honest, and my shit's not that nice.
Yeah.
And it's like, but when you put it on a stage like that, that's where you're setting yourself up for people.
I mean, we
to
do it a little bit. We stand there and look at the car and like, we're not like, this thing's a piece of shit. We're just like, I don't quite like how this flows with.
Yeah, and you're allowed to have opinions on
Yes.
stuff. I mean, everybody can have opinions, but especially the amber cars. You watch all the Facebook groups and all the social media, and the way people, these people talk about how somebody built a car that is a very high quality car, and a lot of times the fucking people have they have no place to be talking about how somebody, CNC'd apart, or how the motor mounts or the welds on the exhaust or the X, Y, and Z, and it's like, but they have an opinion, and
They do.
and it's very strong.
You know what
where
they
I'm
say
more,
about, they say about opinions.
yeah,
They're like assholes. Everyone's got them,
and
and
they all
they all stink.
They all stink like shit. So, but that's where the hand built stuff. Back to that. I think if you're putting a car together and you like the allure of the old time hot rods, I urge you to maybe for a moment sit back and think about some of that stuff. And I think if you're the person that's already building your own car, you probably wouldn't. If you go further into hand making parts, you're probably going to enjoy that process as much as the whole car. And it's going to make your car more interesting in the end of the day. And I'm not saying you have to hand build every single piece, but like we've talked about before, there's some of these real famous cars, even though they've changed over the years, those handmade parts stick with the car, and it's how you're able to identify what car that is. I don't know what he's doing.
He was scratching his nose, but his nails were dragging on the wood. And it's one of those things, you could order Speedway mounts, live with it for a summer, and then next winter be like, I'm going to spend the winter and figure out how to make my own engine mounts that are a little bit different.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's and again, Hurst made engine mounts, and if you're being period correct here, most guys would just have ordered a set of Hurst mounts and put it on their engine. But there's some other little details that guys would have done themselves that maybe, wasn't available or was part of that, and that's where I think it makes a car more interesting to look at, and that's why I enjoy that part of the process. And it's interesting how much people that watch our channel who are into the old school cars, we get comments that they feel very strongly about. Again, we put ourselves on a platform. I understand that I'm going to get people that are going to disagree or tell me my work sucks or whatever. But you're going to get people, we laugh sometimes because they comment and they're like, that's not how it was especially some of these older guys. That's not, the interior was my favorite one on the Mercury last year or this year, whatever. That color combination, no one would have ever done that. That looks like dog shit. And when I was back in hot rodding in 1962, nobody had a car like that. And you're like, I replicated one of the most famous 36 Ford of all time.
Yep.
I replicated the interior. I knocked it off, essentially, with the color scheme. And it's like, pretty sure that that's as traditional as it gets, because that car and many other cars jumped off from that car. So, yeah, I know you might not remember that in your little town in fucking Missouri, a guy did a oxblood red with white piping. And I know it maybe doesn't match your taste, but I can assure you, sir, it's as old school. Verified proof.
Yeah.
Here's one of the most famous cars of its time.
That happens with a lot of stuff we do.
And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we do, and we do something a certain way, and people are like, that's not how it would have been done.
Never seen anyone do that, and I've been hot rodding for 75 years.
And when I first started getting into this stuff, I was less argumentative about it. I will now have no problem. I'll be like, that's funny, because I read the May issue of 1958 Rodding and Restyling. There was a car that had almost the same thing that I knocked off. I'm not claiming I made it first. Everything's been done in hot rodding. And they have a setup that's just like this, and that's why that nobody would have used a Volkswagen steering box mount. Everybody hated German cars back in the day.
Yeah.
Some fucking idiot will, some redneck fucking knob will be telling us that everybody hated those sauerkraut cars or some stupid shit that these.
We didn't use import parts on our hot rods.
Yeah, it's fucking just because you're some fucking
Even
dimwit
though-
that hated Germans, that guys were still using those parts.
Customs, they were using Volkswagen hood latches because they were, or is it trunk latches?
The hood and truck latches,
because they were simple.
They were simple. It was at the junkyard.
Yeah.
Just because you somehow have this twisted vision of, they would have never done that. Those guys fought in World War II. They hated Germans. They never would have allowed a German part on their car. You fucking knucklehead. Yes, there was some feelings about Germans. But the guy, when he was building his hot rod, I know he served in World War II, but I don't think he gave a shit when he was trying to make his car faster and look cooler. He was just trying to go fast and pick up chicks.
And probably more the latter than the first.
So if he had to use a Volkswagen steering box mount to get his fucking car going so that he could drive, like, it doesn't matter. So I think sometimes these people, we get in these conversations with, I don't know why at Carlisle I feel like we get a lot of those idiots. I don't know. But we get these guys that just say, or they'll come up to us and be like, I watched your video. You did that interior. Nothing was like that. I'm like, all right, motherfucker. Let me drop some knowledge on you. And then sometimes I'll be rude and people will look at me. I go off on a tangent. People are like, whoa, what's... It's like...
We get that at Carlisle, and then Hershey, sometimes we get the obnoxious restoration guys that are rude because we're hot rodders.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Try us, motherfucker.
Yeah. So, it's... Sometimes the older guys, after we reel it back in, more professional here, after all the F-bombs, sometimes what I think happens is a older person that was there, they're remembering the little snippet of time that they can remember in their hometown, and that's what they were exposed to because there was no internet. And maybe they don't remember. You lived a long life and you can't remember the fucking steering box mount that Jimmy had on his car in 19... We're now trying to relive that. We're using the printed materials that are snapshot into time, and that's what we're using as a jump-off point. So it is true to form.
Yeah.
So that's why we always go back to the books, magazines, old photos. That's the proof is there. And if we can use something as a jumping point for color scheme or...
And what's great now is that, all the historic cars that have been found.
Yeah.
That's as much proof as you need.
Yes.
Because a vast majority of them were not touched. They were just, they might have been restored, but they weren't changed at all from their original form. So you can be like the, what's the coupe that you did the interior off of? I should know
Calori
this.
coupe.
That wasn't ever restored, was it?
Oh, yeah, that car's fully restored.
Or was it?
Yeah.
But it wasn't changed at all. They found it and then just restored it.
Yeah, I don't remember the whole history on it, but that car's as-built type deal, so it's not like things have been majorly changed or anything, and it's pretty true to form as far as I can tell from photos. Again, there's some people that are way nerdier than we are about this stuff, or more educated, I should say, and they could ramble off who restored it, how it was found.
And there's plenty of those famous hot rods that they were found in very good condition that have never been touched.
Yeah.
And they're 100% as they were last parked in the 50s, which is kind of crazy. I like
looking at a lot of those cars. Like the Mac T is a good one. That car is so built to the person that drove it. And like that one, for instance, like the way they built it, that your feet kind of like go down low in it. And it's like, he wasn't thinking about what the internet was going to tell him when he built that it looks awkward or
it was
whatever.
Just purpose built.
It just it did the job and it fit him, and it's one-off hand built, and I kind of love that. And
that's how all your cars are built. All your channel cars are basically built for...
If you're my size, you would like the Schroll car. We left the channel job that was done on it.
Yeah.
But I built the seat and took the package tray, or we took the roll bar out actually, and moved the seat back and down and around to get it to fit me. And I don't know if I moved the pedal. I probably moved. No, I didn't move the pedals. I might have heated and bent them a little bit to get them at a better angle. But there's like some of that stuff that I did.
The steering column we made longer to get the wheel back towards you.
Yes. So there's some stuff like that where you're using the same exact pieces that were on it and just making it fit a little better or be a little more ergonomic, where back in the day they might have been trying to slam it together to just get it on the road or race it, and they didn't care if they were leaning over all weird or whatever. And that car, for instance, it was probably more built as a drag car than a street car. I wanted to put it on the street, so I'm like, I want it to be comfortable that I can shift easily and do all these things, where back then they didn't
Drive
care.
it an hour on the highway.
Yeah, it didn't matter. So that's some of the stuff that you have to think through. I've also had the rude awakening of doing some of the stuff where you build a car all old school using the old parts and the way you thought it was going to work, and then you drive it. It's kind of a motherfucker to drive, and times were different. You could ride. The free T was a good example. When I first put that thing together, no fan, no generator. I'm like, I looked at old magazines. A lot of these cars, they didn't have a fan. Some of them didn't have a generator. They did all these things. I'm like, I can do it. Fuck it. I'm hardcore.
Yeah, but they were all like dedicated race cars.
Or they were show cars, or there wasn't the traffic we have today.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, you lived in a small town or you lived in an area, even a city, the traffic in most cities wasn't as bad as it is now.
And it was a very condensed area.
So you could just drive outside and
Yeah.
around and back roads and whatever. So these cars didn't have to worry about, just to leave my neighborhood, I might sit in a little bit of traffic. And it's like on a hot day, you could be already overheating because
Well, honestly, but 3 out of the 4 directions you could go, you're going to sit in traffic for a half hour before you get to smooth sailing for the most part.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. So that our modern times on modern streets have made it necessary to do some stuff that people are doing on nostalgic hot rods now. And that's where as I've grown older, I've learned to bend and not be an idiot about it, where I'm like, no, I can't run an electric fan. It's like, well, it's either you can't drive the car or you're stressed the fuck out because it's going to overheat, or you put an electric fan on. Where I think there is that difference is people putting the lack of taste. So they put the bright blue China Speedway fan on that's like some bright blue color, and they just zip tie it to the radiator, and their car is an old school trog build. It's like, maybe try and hide it,
Dude,
build a
that's-
little box or do something to build it, to hide the fan.
My favorite's when they don't have room for a puller, so they put a pusher on the outside. You can see it through the grill shell, and then instead of like painting it to hide it, they paint it body color. So it's like you look through the grill shell, and it's like,
Or it's a plastic chrome.
that's at least a little bit better. It's like it's a blue car, and they have a bright blue electric fan. Like, you're supposed to try and hide the electric fan, not make it stick out more.
Yeah, so, and that's probably more on some of the street rod stuff that you
Yeah.
see, but like, I like where the stuff's hidden, so I like when people are to go back to, speaking for some of this modern, not one-off stuff. There's, they sell now a kit that looks like it's Kinmont brakes, but it's got little Willwood calipers in it.
Yep.
Super cool, because when it's on the car and it's all together, if you've never seen a real set of Kinmonts in person, you would think that's what that car has. It's very, very cool.
It probably works better than Kinmonts do anyway.
Works way better.
Yeah.
A good example is Cody's 3-window is one of my favorite 3-windows that's come out in recent times. It's fucking bitchin'. And he's got those brakes on it. I noticed when he was building it. And there's some things but he did a fantastic job of hiding all that stuff. So when you see that car, it looks like it would have been built in the period he was aiming for and the style he was aiming for. And it doesn't shout at you. Sure,
No.
if you get down and inspect his car, you can find those little things. And that's where I think there's that disconnect between the hand-built, one-off, unique car and people that just throw the thing on and they use it as an excuse. Well, I couldn't get the damn thing to stop overheating, so I put this electric fan on. It's like, okay, well, maybe that's true, but you could have also built a shroud to kind of hide it, and that might have helped solve the problem, but also kept the theme of what you're doing. And if you don't give a shit, you don't give a shit. I don't care, but it's just more what people say and what they're doing don't match. But that's a whole nother topic, but it's more the hand-built one-off stuff is what we're talking about. So is there anything on your car that we did or you'd like to do that is more like hand built kind of stuff?
I know we did on.
I don't remember. That's why.
So for my car, the B pillars were missing.
Okay.
So we added original B pillars, but the foot was missing off of both of them. Someone just like there was a foot that like hugs the sub rails.
Mhm.
The top of it they just cut off or it broke. So we handmade a foot that looked like an
Oh, yeah,
original.
I forgot about that.
I like put some round stock and blended it in. It doesn't. It's nowhere near what an original looks like. It's reminiscent of an original.
Yeah, yeah.
So like that I like, and we did the frame kick up. We
Okay.
cut the frame and swept it up in. The only thing that we bought that I wish we handmade is a column drop. I bought
yeah.
a brand new column drop to drop the steering wheel down, which we could have made, but
That's again one of those things that Mike was trying to get the car on the road, and I was trying to push him to get it driving.
yeah,
So it's like, to take a step back, it's like, well, we just wanted to get it on the road. He acknowledged that. I was like, it's fine. Like,
and I'm gonna
the car will go through
billet.
phases.
Well, I'll also sand it, maybe blast it so it has some age to it, and just paint it and just put it on the car and forget about it.
That's the fun thing of having a car and having different versions. So if you decide to redo some stuff in the dash, and while you're focused on the dash, we could hand build something. We
Yeah.
could find a column drop at Hershey from something else and
Yeah.
make it fit, and it would be cool. And
Yep.
that's one of those like one weekend projects instead of like keeping the car from driving.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think that's, but your car, I tried to step back and not too much put my design thoughts into it. So there's stuff on your car that I'm like, I probably wouldn't have done that, but like, it's your car and that's what makes it unique. And
Yeah.
that's where I tried to step back and be like, that's how you want to do it, or what headlights you wanted to use and how you placed them. That was all you.
Yep.
And you just.
And they're placed the right way, motherfuckers. Look at a 42 to 8 Buick. They're correctly oriented.
That's how they were on.
Yes.
Those cars. Okay.
That was a very big topic of discussion when I did that video. Everyone's like, they should have been mounted the other way. Like, I mounted them how they were mounted on a Buick. Leave me alone.
And he spent a lot of time like flipping them, moving them up and down, asking
Yeah.
our opinions, and it's kind of like in the end it was, it was what you decided on,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it uniquely your car. And back in the day, there was no rules. There
Yep.
wasn't as much of a peanut gallery, so a guy would have just like kind of been like, I kind of like that, or you know what, that's how it was on the Buick. I'm just gonna plop these
Yep.
on because they're better taillights,
Yep.
and they put them on. So.
I'm trying to think what else.
Yeah, I mean, I think
We got to do shock mounts on mine.
yeah, that'll be a good one. I mean,
I think we're going to use the same like you did on your car, F1 mounts.
Mhm.
We'll have to do some.
heating and bending and
Yeah.
that's kind of like the common
Exactly, yeah.
thing. And I really wanted to do some kind of sculpted on the Arting car. I wanted to do some kind of sculpted combination headlight, and because I had some reference photos I really liked of other cars that did that. The headlights are just too far away from where the shocks had to be because of that stud I was
And I
using.
might have to do that on my car, depending, because where the headlights are now, we have to play with putting the shocks. We might have to do that and make a mount
Oh, that'd be cool.
off the shock mount. I haven't held the shock mounts in a couple different places to figure out where they're going to fall, but my headlights are kind of right where the shocks potentially might need to be.
Oh,
So
okay.
we might have to make a slight revision to do that.
Shocks have been that's been a problem or something that guys have had to figure out on hot rods forever. I don't know how many drop axles, like I think the two-door sedan has an old, I don't know if it's a Dago or it's a more drop axle under it, and somebody took F1 mounts
And like,
and lopped them off, and on the bottom of the axle cut it and welded it along the bottom edge and then blended the welds in.
yeah,
and
not just like welded it. It's like fully welded all the way around
Yeah.
top of it. It's on there. It's never coming off.
And it's kind of neat how they did that because it's not how I would have done it.
You don't
but-
really. I don't think I've ever seen an axle done
Yeah.
like that.
And it's kind of cool. So, like, a lot of these old drop axles, that's one of the pieces we use that kind of, if you're trying to build an old style car, when you look under that car, no one would have done that. I wouldn't have even done that. And,
Yeah.
And that's the jump off point. So when you see this car now, even though it started off as a stocker, everything we've put on it has kind of been old, so it like looks like, it looks like the real deal because you're using real old parts. But we're working around that. That was not the most convenient way to put shocks on that
No.
car, but we worked around it and made it fit. But like back in the day, the guy was just like, I need shock mounts. I don't know what to do. And just held it up. I'm like, weld.
Weld it.
Welded
Done.
it on. Took the torch, lopped the end of it off, held it up, tacked it, welded it, and it was good. And it was on a car and probably running for years, and it's on again, and it's good for that. But taking some of those old parts and hand building stuff around it, it just furthers that one-off old school hot rod custom.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like I found this axle X, Y, and Z. It's perfect for this car, and we made that shock mount work for what we needed. We didn't just cut it off and smooth it out. We're like, it's there. It's same with like the Arden car, the shock mounts and the wishbones.
Just left them there. The way they welded them into the radius rods, they're like, one's like angled a little differently the other one because they just shoved shock mounts in, and they did weld them on both sides. I noted it's fully through the wishbone and it's welded on both sides, so that structurally it looks fine. But it's like they weren't worried about them being at the same exact angle, And I'm like, I'll just work with it,
And we do that with old speed equipment too.
Yeah.
You just work around anything that's done to it odd. You just kind of live with it.
Yeah. That's where, you're kind of like, nobody would ever drill 6 different vacuum holes in an Eddie Meyer's intake nowadays. And like, we get this old intake, you're like, sure, I could have somebody weld it up, or I could weld it up and try and blast it and age it and do all this shit. I'm like, or we just put some plugs in it and run the motherfucker, and it's exactly how it was. Yep. And guys go, I can't believe somebody did that. Yep, that's how we found it. It was done back in the day, and it
like your Arden valve covers with the fucking breather holes drilled at the top.
Yeah. I remember when Ron would call me with updates, and he's like, that they're not even remotely symmetrical, or they're like angled and whatever, and so I found that those valve covers didn't have any breathers on them. So I just matched up with the holes. I started buying a bunch of old breathers and finally found a set that had the same hole spacing and bolted them on, and I think Ron might have moved them around a little bit to get them a little more square because they were like totally not like wonky. But like, those are on there, and you would say, why the hell would you drill Arden rocker covers for a breather? Like, that's so stupid. It's like, that's how it was done.
It was on a race car. They didn't give a shit. They just needed to vent some crankcase pressure.
Yeah, and they did what they did, and there it is. So some of that stuff we left on just because it's cool. We ran with it. And
I think it's way cooler that they're there versus like TIG welding and trying to smooth and hide that there was repairs done.
Yep.
For what we're into, it's the character of all those bits and pieces that make it
together,
way cooler.
Yeah, so that's where I've been trying to think about that stuff, and it's kind of crazy because we're hand building parts off of old hand built or modified things, and you're kind of like, it's like doubling down on the old school hot rodding because they're doing it that way. So I think it's cool though. Those pieces, for me, that's like the jump off point for a lot of these cars, is getting some of those hand built or real old modified pieces and using them as the jump off point for whatever you're doing. And I have some parts kicking around that are like handmade steering hoops and different stuff like that. The Arden car has an old chrome dropped or stepped, I should say, steering hoop. And it's like, I thought that was super cool. I could have bought one and probably heated and bent a more beautifully bent piece, but this one's just like, and it works and it's fine.
It's the right one.
And it matches with my shitty old chrome brakes and V860 axle that was chromed, and
all just flows together.
Yeah, all the filth just like blends together. It looks great. But so I think it's been fun to, like, when you're walking swap meets, to see those like one-off things, and you're like, ooh, that would be kind of cool, and you just put it on the shelf, and when the right car. So I have drawers of stuff upstairs here where I'm like, I start working on a car and I like go up and I'm like, what's this? And I already, like with the Arden car, I don't even think I filmed it. I got some different headlight mounts and shock mounts that I had that were from different stuff and held them up, and it's like, I just ended up going back to, you know what, let me just do F1 mounts. But like,
it's always funny when Matt does mock-up. You walk into the shop downstairs and there's like all this shit just spread out on the table. You're like, I tried all of this and none of it works.
It is
This is what I
frustrating.
went with.
Yeah. Sometimes it's frustrating because you buy all these cool one-off, like, old hot rod pieces, and none of them will work with what you want. And you're like, back to just hand building it from scratch. And you're like, fuck.
There's a bunch of stuff. It's like we've tried this on every car. There's a couple things up here Matt will bring down and be like, maybe they'll work with this one. Like,
Yeah.
fuck, they don't work. Take it back
Nope,
upstairs.
Doesn't work. Doesn't work.
One
So-
day we will find a car that this works on.
Right. Or maybe one of my friends will have a car.
Yep.
And they come here and they're like, I'm looking for a XYZ. You're like, oh, I have this old chrome piece I've been trying.
I forget one of the cars. I had a chrome hoop. I think it might be on the Schroll. I don't remember what car it is.
Not the short car.
There's a chrome hoop that I had for my car, and Matt was like,
Oh, I think it might be the one on the Arden car, actually.
I thought the Arden one's one of the big, bulkier ones. It
No,
might
it's
be
one
on.
of the tubing ones, but it was heated and dropped. And
It
it's
might be.
chrome.
I found it at a swap meet, and it was in my car. And Matt was pulling out all his different hoops. He's like, I need a chrome one. I'm like, I'll trade you. I got a chrome one right here.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, it was that. Because I actually, on the Arden car, I flipped it so it steps up
Yeah.
because it was hitting the spring perch. So I actually needed it to step up and not down. And yours was like
I
perfect.
think
for
you
that.
had a straight chrome one and a plain one. You're like, I really don't want to heat this chrome one. I'm like, I have a stepped chrome one right here.
Yeah, somebody already did it, and the chrome's where they heated it is already
Yeah,
like
it's like
missing.
the perfect shittiness.
But I think that's kind of cool. I don't
Yeah.
know. I like the perfection in the.
Imperfection.
Yeah, it's just really, really cool. So I think as I've been going forward, I've been understanding that I like that stuff better and being okay with the imperfections, but trying to think how I could do something differently that makes my car stand out from a sea of other, the
Yeah.
Arden car. There's a sea of, we were just having a conversation with, was it Luke? Because Luke's still learning because he's,
Oh, yeah, we were talking about the
way
chop.
it's chopped. And like the 33, he was like, so Luke has been around this stuff. He's followed our channel for years. He's been educating himself, but he still isn't as in depth. So now that he's like working for us, he comes in there every day and he's like asking questions about the car. He's like, how could some of the cars, well, no, he was asking because the roof has pieces added in the center of the roof. And he's like, how come it has this? And it's like, well, when you chop them, if you don't want to lean the pillars back, you have to put this strip in. And that really is kind of probably a way they were done for many years.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. And then I see a lot of these, they had like the windshield's laid real far back. And we're like kind of talking about like, that's a modern, it's not a modern thing. It is a modern trend in nostalgic cars that every 32 3 window and every 33 4 seems to get this hard Bonneville chop now, which is the trend. And a lot of them look bitching and super mean, but it has become a trend where you see a lot of them done that way. And he's like, well, how come most I see are chopped that way? It's like, well, they did an article back in the day how you could cut and lean the pillars back and you don't have to add strips in there. And a lot of the race cars were done that way. And now it's like everybody's doing them. A lot of people are doing it that way.
Yeah, I feel like the Bonneville chop's oversaturated at this point. It's done so much.
Yeah, it's like everybody's, and it, again, don't get me wrong, it looks amazing.
Awesome, yeah.
It looks crazy cool. If you want to make that car look mean, that's the way to do it. And it's gotten, now we're coming full circle, it's getting into the cartoony where the window's like this freaking big.
Yeah.
It's wild, and I think they look bitching. That car, because it was chopped back in the day and the pieces were added, I kind of like on that car that it was done that way. And it's not how most, and we were talking about like, it doesn't have the third hinge, which was a common thing when chopping 3 windows and 33 4s back in the day.
Yep.
The easiest thing to do is just throw the fucking hinge in the trash and weld it all back together. And they weren't worried about if the door was going to sag over time. Nowadays, we know better. And most people are putting the hinge back on, or they're chopping it and moving the hinge around and making all new door jambs to fit that hinge back in. And I kind of like on that car that it doesn't have the third hinge. I've worked around leaving it that way by adding extra bracing and that bar in the body that pushes on the B-pillars to try and fight some of that. And the doors do still sag just a little bit, but I've gotten to the point where they don't sag too bad, and I'm fine with it. But if you're trying to build a car that clicks shut like it's a Mercedes or something, You're not going to get that effect with doing the doors that
No.
way. It's nearly impossible. Science tells me that door's too heavy for those two hinges.
Yes.
So, but I like all of those things. So Luke was asking these questions. I enjoy these conversations because he's just generally asking, like, why do people do this? Why do I see this? Why is it that? When he goes to shows, like, well, this is the background behind
Yeah.
it, and that's, but my car, having those couple little things, even if you paint the car, those things you would be like, man, all this stuff together doesn't look like it was just built yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's because it wasn't. 99% of it was done back in the day, and I've worked very hard around it. The 44 dash we were discussing that's in it, that's not really in vogue right now to put a 40 dash in a 33.4, but that car came with that dash, done a little more crude than I would like, and I'm going to just clean it up and make it better and modify it a little bit. And it's just kind of neat to work around. Like a 44 dash with the ashtray still in it, shoved in a 33.4, it's like, what?
Yeah, no one does that.
It's kind of odd. Everybody's putting 33.4 dashes back in 33.4s when it was like kind of the opposite. They were putting whatever the hell dash in, or padding them, or covering them, or cutting the hell out of them.
Cutting the hell out of them mostly.
Is pretty common. So I think it's neat to, you see you see that too. Guys are buying old hot rods and then they're modifying them to what the in vogue thing is to do right now.
Yeah.
So taking an old chop car and chopping it further to make it a Bonneville style chop. That car was kind of cool how it was done back in the day. And there's no right or wrong way. It's just like the trends that change.
Yep.
Much like how many old-time hot rods that were turned into street rods back in the day.
Almost all of them.
Yes. So it's like these cars have lived many, many lives, and I just try and
The correct thing to do is to take a nice restored car and chop it from there.
fuck it all up. That's what you should do. Everybody should buy one of them. And
We haven't pissed everyone off, so I figured I'd piss off the restoration guys.
Yeah, try not to do it too much, but yeah, you never know. It's the reality, unfortunately. That's what's happening. But so yeah, that's kind of our talk on the hand-built stuff versus the CNC, whatever. And I think there is a room for everything. I just think when you're building a car, think about some of this stuff, and it's kind of cool if you're trying to build a car that way, or you're trying to relive those times. I think it's kind of neat. I do really enjoy when I'm heating and bending something with a torch and fitting it up, and like that's probably exactly what it felt like back in the day. Just
and at the end of the day, hot rodding has literally zero rules.
No rules. Nope.
It's everyone's very opinionated on the internet about how things are done. Hot rodding it's the beauty of the hobby. It's endless. You can do whatever you want with whatever you want, however you want. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, it's.
Don't listen to people on the internet as the synopsis of this. Just do whatever you want. Fuck everyone else.
Yeah. Art. Treat it as art. You know, if you think it's cool and it looks right in your eye, then it's right. It doesn't matter what's good. We have these discussions more because people go the opposite direction of what they want when they don't know what they want. So we try and talk about that. Like, so if you really want that hand-built old school hot rod look, take a step back and maybe think about fabricating some of these pieces, or you buy a pre-made Speedway piece and fucking grind and modify the shit out of it. And then it is
which is a hilarious thing to do. It is funny whenever you buy a part and you're like, well, we're just going to chop this up and change all of it.
Yeah, I bought, I think on the free tee, the shock mounts, I think it is, are like Speedway or somebody, maybe SoCal Speed Shop, but they're stainless ones.
Oh, yeah.
And I heated and bent, or no, the headlight mounts. I don't remember. But I heated and bent and machined them and changed them and did all this crazy shit to make them work on the car. And I'm like, I probably should have just started with round bar stock at this point. But again, what would have a guy done? I mean, that probably happened so much back in the day where you bought, Offenhauser parts or whatever insert company that was around, Cal Custom stuff, and you're like, this doesn't really work how I want. Let me modify it to make it fit my car.
Get the torch, cut off grinder, we'll make it fit.
That's how you have all these super cool parts we obsess over, like custom dropped Cal Custom steering hoops. It's like They just got the part, didn't work for their application, and they modified it.
Yep.
So don't be afraid to cut and modify anything.
If it doesn't fit, keep cutting until it fits.
Yeah. And then get the welder out when you cut too
And
much.
yeah,
and
and just
put it
weld
back together, and, there you go. And that's it.
when you're
So,
cutting, save all of your pieces in case you
I
need
have
that.
learned that.
Yes.
I actually, when I was making the blisters, when I was cutting the blisters for those shock mounts, every little piece I cut out when I was trying to make the windows for where they fit in, I had to make the windows big enough that you could rotate them and get them off without taking the shock mounts off, or at least move them so you can get to the bolts for the
Yeah.
shock mounts. So I kept cutting a little more. So I had all these little pieces, and they're all sitting on the bench because I was like, in case I need to put one back on, I
Yep.
could TIG weld the piece back in. So I've learned,
Yes.
because there's been way too many times where I cut it, threw it in the trash, like, oh no.
I cut
needed
way
that-
too much.
I need that piece.
Yep.
Little pieces of 32 grill where you cut the bottom, they're like saved. you
Well,
know?
yeah, because we always buy 32 girls that need those pieces.
Well, I fixed for instance, 2 days ago, I fixed the 33 grill that I decided to use on the Arden car
Oh, yeah.
with another 33 grill. We didn't show it in the video because I thought people would lose their minds. But I cut a 33 grill. I cut the horse collar.
Oh, I didn't. I thought you used the one that was on the table.
They were both 34s. And the shape is totally
Yep.
different. Where it comes in, it's narrower. And I was about ready to weld it. I'm like, it's not going to match. And I'm going to have to fucking hammer the fuck out of it. And it just will look like dog shit. So I was like, well, I have this other one. It's the one that's like split on the ends.
Yeah.
And somebody tried welding. I'm like, this one's already messed up in some other ways. The chrome's actually better on it than the one I used, but it's not as straight. And I'm like, well, I can't imagine too many people could say I've done this before. And Steve's just like, okay. He's like, okay. And I'm like, here we go. Zip, knocked it off. And
It only hurts once.
Yeah.
Once it's cut off, pain's gone.
Yeah, whatever. But I think sometimes I do it too. This stuff is valuable, and we start treating it like it is they only made one of them. There's lots of other 33 grills. And if cutting that grill makes the other one better, and I have the skills to weld it back together, I use stainless TIG rod, so I could actually polish the weld. So now when it's all together, it doesn't draw your eye too much. So it's like, I tried to do it in a way where it doesn't look like it's been fixed. But like, I cut a grill, yes. But that other grill probably isn't worth much
It didn't
more.
affect the value too much.
Not really. I mean, it's split on the ends and somebody in the center, and somebody tried welding it. The shape of it isn't quite right. Realistically, it's going to be a wall hanger for the rest of its life. If I sell it, somebody might even use it for pieces and parts. So I'm like, you know what? To fix my other grill correctly, I'm going to do it. But we do this a lot in this hobby now with this stuff where people
do it with Model A's. It's so funny.
like it's the last one on the
Oh,
planet.
I can't. It's a restored Model A. I can't hot rod it, and I was just am super brash with people and be like, "Don't be a pussy, just hot rod it." They made like 5 million of them. Who gives a fuck?
And most of those restored cars,
We're old hot rods.
they were old hot rods, or they cut the shit out of them to restore them.
Yeah.
And there's like all these pop riveted patch panels that are modded over. It's like, really what you're doing to it isn't any different. You're just not making it pretend like it's an all original car.
Yeah.
You're just making it a hot rod. So I don't know. It is what it is. Do whatever you want.
Whatever makes you feel good.
But that's our rambling. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it maybe gives you a jump off point if you're thinking about, building a car. Try hand building stuff. Again, look at some old books, magazines, old photos, and try and do something that's a little different than the next guy.
Yep.
And I can't wait to check out all your hand-built stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Matt's got to get back on the road and finish driving home from Florida. So
yeah. Right now. But, that's what I have in the truck is very much a
that's true.
hand-built type,
Yeah.
not everybody's taste type thing, but
Correct. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
it's on
We're speaking in the future.
yes, future talk. But anyways, so that's what's going on. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you have some input, you can always hop on the YouTube channel and drop some comments. There is always a good discussion. And if you guys have any ideas for topics, drop us a comment as well, or send us an email. We'd love to hear from you guys. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Catch you later.